Now imagine taking your disabled child or an adult you care for a day out and having to change them on a bathroom floor or in the boot of your car because there's no suitable changing facility. Well, that's what mums Sarah and Laura face. They're among those calling for more changing places for disabled children and adults across the UK. And I've been talking to them both, together with Jenny Miller, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Scottish charity PAMIS, which advocates for people with profound and multiple learning disabilities and their families in Scotland.
Changing place toilets really do change lives, because families who have children and adults with complex healthcare needs really can't go out into their communities unless they've got the right facility to be able to change their son and daughter. And I guess it's just something we don't think about, and we don't think about because quite often we don't see the children and young people that actually need these facilities. And it's not, we don't think it's a huge thing to ask. It's a larger toilet area, 12 square metres, that has an adjustable height bench that means that the young person can be laid so that they can have their personal needs met. And it has a tracking hoist, which means that parents aren't having to lift children. And so many of our families end up doing their backs in because they're lifting heavy children on and off the floor normally, actually. So, and it needs a peninsular toilet because some people need two people to help them on and off the loo. So it's just such a huge issue, and it's just such a basic need. But families aren't going out because they've got nowhere to change their son or daughter.
Laura, how does it affect you?
For us, my son Brody's 6 and doubly incontinent, and when he was about 2 or 3 I realised he couldn't fit on a baby changing table anymore. So what we have to do is change him in our car boot to avoid changing him on a toilet floor, which is quite awful. Obviously it's pretty undignified, unhygienic, and it's not very safe either. So it's not a nice situation to be in.
Now, you live in Scotland. You're in central Scotland.
Yeah.
Whereabouts have you had to do this in the country? Everywhere, I guess.
Yeah, everywhere. There's only 157 changing places in Scotland, and my closest one's 13 miles away at the McRoberts Centre, which is a brilliant facility, but obviously there's actually none in Falkirk at the moment. So it's not a good situation to be in.
Sarah, tell me your story. How does this affect you day to day?
So my son Hadley's 7. So we've been going through this for a long time now. He's completely aware that being changed on a disabled toilet floor is not right. His twin sister doesn't have to do it. So for him, it hugely distresses him. He gets really upset, and to the point where he doesn't want to go out because he knows he'll have to lie on a toilet floor, just so that we can remove his trousers to get him onto a toilet, because he's actually able to use the toilet most of the time. So for us, it's hugely disabling now. We're kind of limited to where we can go, which means we've just spent half term inside at home for the entire week, because there are very few places we can actually go as a family, which, you know, it's pretty horrible for him. And his twin sister, she misses out too. So yeah, it's a really terrible situation to be in.
And Laura, you mentioned that your son Brody is doubly incontinent. How does he feel about all this, and how hard is it for you as a family?
Well, Brody's actually got quite a severe learning disability, so he doesn't understand what's happening.
Okay.
But he does become very distressed, probably because it's massively uncomfortable and cold in a car boot in Scotland. It affects our family because he becomes distressed, my daughter becomes upset, she's very aware of what's happening, probably is going to get to the stage soon, she's 2 years old, where she thinks, why is there a toilet for me and not one for my brother? So it's pretty awful, really.
Jenny, you're CEO of the charity, and I'm just guessing that what happens in planning in any new building is that things comply with regulations. So you're really asking for regulations to be changed, aren't you? Because existing toilets that are being put into new builds comply with everything.
Yeah, and I think the problem is until you really get it, you just don't get it. And people, aren't meaning to do the wrong thing, but they just don't understand that a normal accessible toilet just isn't big enough for our families. I mean, and if you think about a mum going out, I mean, if Laura went out with other children, you can't leave the other children outside the toilet. So you need the space for all the children. But equally, you need space for these larger wheelchairs that some of the kids are in, and you need to be able to safely move. And I think when people begin to to get it, they understand. But, unless it's spelt out to them, we're going to end up with more and more new buildings without the right facilities and people being excluded from their communities, which just isn't right.
But that means you have to change planning law, north and south of the border, doesn't it?
Well,
you can't have a new building without these, because at the moment, as I said, everything complies, or else it wouldn't be built.
No, and building, building regulations and building standards sort of recommend, but they don't say you have to. And I think that's what we're pushing for in each of the countries, is that you now really have to put in a changing place toilet. And I guess, John, what's happened is families like Laura and Sarah have grown up with baby changing facilities. So you naturally would assume that if you've had to put in a baby changing, that as you grow up, you're needing it even more, that you will put in changing place toilets. And I think the more we can raise the awareness of the need, then the better. But you're absolutely right, it needs to be changed. It needs to be changed in the law.
Laura, in terms of existing toilets then, and what you do, you mentioned that there's only one of these toilets near you. Where do you change your child? Did you say in the boot of the car, or was that Sarah?
No, it's a bit of a car for us. We've got quite a big car at the moment, so we can manage it. The problem is, as he gets older and he becomes an adult, he'll still probably be doubly incontinent, and we won't be able to change him in our car then. So as he gets older, it's going to become more and more isolating for us, unfortunately. But that's the problem a lot of people face.
And is it the same for you, Sarah? I've just got this picture of parents with their beloved children, and their children are maybe incontinent. You want a big changing room, but you're changing the kids in the back of the car?
Yeah, we've had several situations where we've attempted to use a toilet floor in a supermarket, and the floor has been all floors are foul, but so bad we've had to go to the car in the dark, freezing cold, middle of winter, trying to shield Hadley from people walking by doing their shopping, and obviously he's very embarrassed and worried about people seeing him, and dealing with two children who are massively upset that they're in a car having things changed when they should be somewhere private and clean and warm.
I don't know if any of you have that same issue. That was parents, Sarah and Laura, both with kids with disabilities, and Jenny Miller, who's CEO of the charity, and they have to change on the floor of bathrooms, or even the floor of corridors, or in the back of the car, just when they want to go to the toilet. 80295 is the text. BBC Radio Scotland.